Everybody, we begin with some breaking news out of Jacksonville today. The sheriff's office in this area about to update us after human remains have been found in the search of a wooded area on the city's south side. The search is related to that missing toddler you saw a moment ago, little Lonzie Barton.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is one about a little boy who was kidnapped while he was sitting in the back of his mother's boyfriend's vehicle. Or at least that's the story they told. But it certainly wasn't what police would later find out had really happened to him. This is the story of Lonzie Barton. Lonzie Aaron Ray Barton was born in Jacksonville, Florida on October 17, 2013, to his mother Lana Laura Moore and his father Christopher Barton. He also had several siblings, including an older sister named Lily. Christopher and Lana had gotten married back in 2009, and while Christopher always believed that Lonzie was his son, he would later find out that the boy was not his biological child. It wasn't long after Lonzie was born that Christopher and Lana filed for divorce. At the time, Lana was working as a dancer at a local gentlemen's club called Wacko's. And while she was on shift one evening, she met a man named William Reuben Ebron Jr. He was a regular at the club and was known for providing the dancers with drugs, which is precisely how he had met Lana. The two started dating soon after, and their relationship seemed largely focused on consuming drugs together. And not long after their romance began, Lana, along with her two children, would move into Reuben's apartment. According to Lana's family, she had struggled with drug addiction for much of her life, and she was very easily influenced. So they weren't surprised that she had moved in with a man so quickly after they had begun dating, as she was the kind of person who always needed to be in a relationship, regardless of the effects that it had on her and her children. So on the evening of July 23, 2015, Lana headed into her shift at Wacko's shortly after 8 p.m. Her boyfriend Reuben stayed home with Lonzie and his sister. But when it was time for Reuben to go pick Lana up from work around 2:20 a.m. on July 24th, he instead called emergency services with a rather bizarre story.
Jacksonville 911, Archibald.
Yes, I want to report a car stolen. It's a 95 Honda Civic.
Do you know who stole it?
No, I don't. It's a 95 Honda Civic, and somebody just took off.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me just check and make sure it wasn't towed or anything, all right?
It couldn't have been towed, not that quick. And it's my kid is in the back, still in the back of the car.
Your
My
what?
kid is in the back of the car.
Okay. What color is it?
It's a bright orange. You can't miss it. 95 Honda Civic.
Which way did it go?
I just seen it. I tried to run towards the street, but it looked like it went left, but I couldn't tell, man. By the time I got from the back of the neighborhood, I think had already.
Okay. Okay, which way was the last thing going?
It looked like it was going left towards University.
Okay. Is your kid?
What's that?
Your kid is in the back seat, right?
Yes, in the back seat.
Can you describe the suspects?
I did not see. I went inside real quick, put on a movie, and by the time I came out, the car was gone.
So you parked your car out front, left your kid in the car real fast, went inside, came back out, your car's...
According to him, he had put Lonzie and his sister in the car so he could go pick up their mother from work. After putting them in the vehicle, however, he realized that he needed to go back inside because he had forgotten something. 5-year-old Lily had unexpectedly followed him back in, saying that it was too dark and scary outside. Once Ruben had grabbed what he needed, he returned to the parking lot to find that someone was driving off in his orange 1995 Honda Civic, with 22-month-old Lonzie still inside. He tried to chase after the car, but when he was unsuccessful, Ruben returned back inside to grab his phone and call 911. But if he was headed out of the house at the time, wouldn't he already have had his cell phone on him? Another thing that was making the situation look extremely odd right from the beginning was the fact that Ruben told police that Lonzie's name was actually Aaron. Authorities arrived at the Ravenwood Apartments on Old Kings Road shortly after, and they immediately began searching for Lonzie and Ruben's car. And just 20 minutes later, they would find the vehicle. It was abandoned just a few blocks away from the apartment complex, but Lonzie was not inside. The public was then notified of the little boy's disappearance, and about 4 hours later, an Amber Alert was also issued. By 11 a.m., the search for Lonzie had expanded, and officers were going door to door to see if anyone had any video surveillance footage from the area around the time that the little boy had been taken. They soon questioned Lonzie's father, Christopher, too, who at the time was still believed to be his biological father. However, he had a solid alibi, which authorities were able to verify. Dive teams were then brought in to search local bodies of water for Lonzie, and police continued questioning everyone in the neighborhood. At the same time, a $10,000 reward for any information that led to the toddler's safe return home was being offered. Investigators brought Ruben in for questioning in an attempt to uncover any potential clues as to where Lonzie had gone.
So you ran up to Old Kings Road and you saw your car going to the left?
I was going up the complex. I might have been maybe by the mailbox, maybe a little bit further than that, and I seen it going to the left.
And did you ever see it going the other way?
I've never seen anything else.
Was he in the car seat?
Yeah.
Was he strapped in the car seat?
Yeah.
You sure?
He can't get out of it.
He can't unstrap himself?
I mean, he's done it. I mean, he was asleep.
He was asleep?
He was asleep. So.
Has he ever unstrapped himself before?
He has before.
He has?
He has.
Have you seen him do it? Because I asked his mom. His mom said that he's never unstrapped himself.
I know he's gotten out, or maybe that might have been with a seatbelt. I remember him doing it. But honestly, my mind with that, I've only known him about 3 or 4 months. But I'm pretty sure I've seen him get out of something.
Now, both Ruben and Lana were cooperating with detectives, but when officers further looked into Ruben's criminal history, they found some rather concerning things. In the past, he had been convicted of domestic battery, armed robbery, and grand theft auto. He additionally had a DV injunction out against him from an ex-girlfriend who claimed that he had beaten her, then continued to stalk her after they broke up. Unbelievably, it was the 3rd time that this ex had filed one of these injunctions too. Ruben had also cracked one of her sister's ribs, threatened the life of his ex-girlfriend's 12-year-old niece, and once attempted to kidnap a child that the two shared. Then about 2 months prior to Lonnie going missing, back in May, police had responded to a noise complaint at Lana's apartment. And when they arrived, they found Lana, Ruben, and a 3rd individual who were all in possession of marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and ecstasy pills. Ruben was also discovered to have about $400 worth of cash on him at the time, leading authorities to believe that he had been selling the drugs. All 3 adults were arrested, and not long after, Lana was evicted from her apartment. It was at that point that she and the children had moved in with Ruben. Now, one of the conditions of Ruben's bond in this case was that he was not to contact Lana. And since they had clearly been living together at the time that Lonzie had gone missing, police placed him under arrest for violating his bond. They additionally had a very strong suspicion at this point that the little boy was not just missing, but rather he was dead, and Ruben had something to do with it. As detectives continued to further investigate Lonzie's disappearance, Ruben would additionally be charged with child neglect and lying to officers. This came after surveillance video was pulled from a nearby business, and it proved that Ruben's story about his car being taken while the little boy was sitting in the back seat was nothing but a lie. This footage showed that Ruben had driven his Honda Civic to the exact spot where it was later found. Then he was seen exiting the vehicle and running in the direction of the apartment complex. This was just minutes before the call to 911 had been placed. It was now clear that Ruben had staged the scene of Lonzie's kidnapping. Therefore, police were no longer considering it a missing persons case, but rather a homicide investigation. Ruben was additionally charged with aggravated manslaughter of a child. Police searched through Ruben's phone, and they found that just a few hours before Lonzie had been reported as missing, one of his friends texted him asking him what he was up to that night. He replied back saying that he was just chilling at home, but this was found to be not true. Instead, Ruben had spent the time traveling between a McDonald's, a laundromat, a gas station, and his apartment. Around midnight on July 23rd, a customer messaged him to make a purchase, and they agreed to meet up. However, at that point, the normally very responsive Ruben stopped replying to text altogether. No other calls or messages originated from his phone until 2:20 a.m. when he had called emergency services. Even though police were now convinced that he had had something to do with Lonzie's disappearance and death, Ruben refused to admit to anything, instead asking for a lawyer. The little boy's mother, Lana, was then brought in for questioning. She told police that before she went into work, her son was alive and well. She theorized that Lonzie could have gotten into Ruben's stash of drugs while she was gone, as he wasn't watching him properly, causing the little boy to accidentally overdose. As Lana continued to speak to detectives, she would admit that she and Ruben had gotten into a rather heated argument before she left for work that evening. The reason for this fight was because Lana had confronted Ruben about injuries she noticed on Lonzie's body. That day, the little boy had also been acting rather lethargic and vomiting. According to Lana, Ruben insisted that he had already made her aware of these injuries, which had accidentally occurred the day prior. Either way, the mother had still made the conscious decision to leave her children in his care.
You confronted him about this injury, and he tried to throw it off on, guess what? I already told you about that.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Mm-hmm. And if he can't explain it, and he's the one that was with him,
yeah,
that, to me...
Well, honestly, if you want the truth, where my mind went with that was, well, I'm taking him to the doctor.
Yeah.
She'll tell me what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in my own mind, I was thinking, let that bitch say that you know, that this was a physical, you know, injury or something, and I was going to leave him if it would have been.
Yeah.
But I was going to leave that up to the doctor to, you know, tell me what happened. Or, you know, tell me how it could, you know, the possibilities of it getting there. Could it have been an ear infection and it be that way, or what? Because none of my kids have ever been injured like that.
Right. Well, listen.
So that was going to be how I, you know what I mean,
right,
figured whether he had hurt my kid or not.
As investigators dug further, they found several photos that Ruben had tried to delete off of his phone, but he had been unsuccessful. These pictures showed that Lonzie had been mistreated for weeks prior to going missing. One photo showed that the little boy had a bruise on his head by his ear, and his ear was leaking yellow fluid. There was also extensive bruising on his abdomen. So it's likely that Lana knew her boyfriend was mistreating her son, but still left him and his sister in his care. Further proof that she must have known was the fact that one of Ruben's friends said that they had been concerned about the little boy in the weeks prior to his disappearance. She said he had unexplained injuries that were so bad it looked like he'd been in a car crash. He had bruises all over, and she stated that Lonzie had been walking funny, like he had an injury to his leg. On August 18, 2015, Lonzie's mother, Lana, was also placed under arrest, and she was charged with child neglect and giving false information to officers. However, just days later, after she made her $50,000 bond, she was released. And soon after she got out, Lana reconciled with her ex-husband, Christopher, as they prepared to fight for custody of their daughter, Lily. However, directly after one custody hearing where a judge specifically told them they needed to stop using drugs, the couple went to a nearby motel where they injected some Molly. They did this alongside a police informant who recorded the incident and later turned them in. Christopher would then receive a 3-year sentence, and Lana would get 7 years. Now, Lonzie's older sister, Lily, had spoken with detectives, and she originally told them, "The truth is, my little brother got kidnapped. I left him in the car all alone. It's my fault." But by mid-August, her story had changed, and she broke down to a teacher, saying, "My baby brother is dead. They killed him with a knife and threw him into the woods." The teacher immediately contacted law enforcement, and they began looking in nearby wooded areas for Lonzie, but were still unable to find him. Come January of 2016, Lana decided to accept a plea deal, and she pleaded guilty to charges of child neglect and lying to officers. She was sentenced to just 5 years in prison in exchange for testifying against Ruben when he went to trial. This was in addition to the 7 years that she was given for her drug charges. But before Ruben could go to trial, he would also accept a plea deal. And he would tell investigators that Lonzie was dead, and Lana had known about it the entire time. According to him, on the morning of the 23rd, he and Lana were having sex while Lonzie was in the bathtub, unattended. They had then discovered that while they weren't watching him, surprise, surprise, the little boy drowned. So in a panic, he had taken his body and buried it. That couldn't have been the real story, though, because small amounts of Lonzie's blood were actually found on Ruben's clothing and on carpet and bed sheets inside his apartment. There was also nearby surveillance video which showed Ruben washing his clothes at a laundromat hours before Lonzie was reported as missing. The boy's 5-year-old sister had told investigators that he was not inside his car seat when she and Ruben had gone into the laundromat. According to her, the last time she had seen her brother was around 8 p.m. Then there was the fact that Ruben's mother, Wanda, had told child welfare investigators that her son had recently said to her, "I can see why people kill their kids or run their cars into rivers." Now, once Ruben had told detectives his version of events, he would lead them to where the little boy's body had been dumped. He brought them to an overgrown area off of State Road 9B, south of Bayard. There, they would find a pile of old tires, and underneath was the decomposing body of 22-month-old Lonzie Barton. It was determined that the little boy had suffered multiple fractures to his skull, as well as 8 rib fractures, which were in the process of healing. Due to his level of decomposition, the medical examiner was not able to determine the cause of Lonzie's death, even though there was evidence of blunt force trauma.
Just been praying every day. Never gave up. Never give up. Never gave up.
In her McClenny home, Valerie Cruz explains the emotional roller coaster today has been for her and her family.
It was you hold your breath when you're underwater, and then you get the breath when you come up. Take a deep breath. That's the way I felt.
Cruz is the sister of Chris Barton, Lonzie Barton's father. Sitting down with us tonight, she addressed some of the questions raised over the Barton family's absence from the spotlight throughout the course of the investigation.
We're a very private family, and we just all stuck together. We all prayed, and we felt like that's what we needed to be doing, not getting in front of cameras and all that.
Cruz says she and her family watched today as the news developed, believing the remains found in Bayard do in fact belong to Lonzie.
It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it is a closure in this part. We can bring him home, put him to peace, put him to rest, and now we can wait for justice.
Following this discovery and the acceptance of Ruben's plea deal, he would be sentenced to 20 years for aggravated manslaughter. Though this sentence was later extended by 5 years for drug convictions, and he's now scheduled for release in 2039, which in my opinion is not nearly enough time behind bars. Lonzie's older sister Lily is now living with her grandparents and is said to be doing well. Shortly after the boy's body was finally discovered, people began leaving stuffed animals, toys, balloons, and flowers near the area, in his memory. Lonzie Barton's funeral was held privately on Tuesday, April 5th, 2016, at Turner Cemetery in Glen St. Mary, Florida. Thank you for listening to Lonzie's story today. I think that Ruben lost his temper with the little boy and killed him while Lana was at work. While I believe that the mother knew what her boyfriend was doing to her son in the weeks leading up to his death, I don't think that she was aware that he was dead until after it had already happened. What do you think? So if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.